Hey, this is Jim. It is 7:29 p.m. in San Francisco, California on December the 3rd. Please note that all discussions, analysis, and information presented are for general informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or any other form of professional advice. So quick AMC update here. I'll try to make it quick at least. But I'm going to take us back to the Judge Zern rejection of the settlement agreement and then kind of run through where we are and how the models track. So if you guys were paying attention to the forecast back at this point or a subscriber at this point, you know that we were looking for a fast market move up into this zone of strength. We got that on the Zern rejection, 127% move after hours on Friday, July the 21st. What happened then was Adam Aaron came out and with a 3-page Twitter letter basically destroying the upside velocity purposely, in my opinion, and begging Judge Zern for the critical conversion reverse split, the draconian 1-for-10 reverse split, saying that, the company could be at risk for bankruptcy, even though he knew Taylor Swift was coming and he knew a very good earnings report was coming. In other words, no massive cash burn. And then we also know from the unredacted internal email exchange from Antera analyst to the big boss Galati that the analyst also told Galati there was no imminent risk of bankruptcy with the company and that the 2L debt could be restructured. By the way, I'll finish out this video by mentioning something about that 2L debt, in my opinion. So what happened at that point was someone came in pre-market on Monday, July the 24th, manipulated the stock. I documented that on YouTube. I also filed a whistleblower report with the SEC highlighting not only the 300,000 share block that was stripped out of the tape in the first 2 hours of trading pre-market Monday, July 24th, but also created some bizarre price activity for a number of reasons after hours, as the trades that were stripped away were listed as a condition out of sequence trade. There were multiple trades that were sizable, but the 300,000 share trade executed through the NASDAQ was the largest, most clunky, and that's the one that was causing the stock to trade from $5 up to the low sevens after hours, back and forth, jerking between fives and high sixes and sevens. Those were all out of sequence trades that were accidentally reflected in the tape as opposed to just being dropped into the time and sales window and having the volume reflect after hours in the daily volume bar. What happened then was that Judge Zern succumbed to the pressure from Adam Aaron and who knows who else, and let the settlement go through. Predictably, the stock was decimated and then started to rally. I thought the stock would move down to sort of the, basically the equivalent of a $2.80 $3 level. Adam Aaron had talked about the $3 level. Gasparino talked about $3. The guy that came out of nowhere and appeared on all the Spaces calls, Defiant, Smith Barney, Defiant VC, whatever his handle is. He was referencing the $3 number, so it was pretty obvious they were going to shoot for that. I didn't think in my wildest dreams that they would need to drive the stock below the all-time low. And as quickly as they did. So they leaned on the stock, absolutely decimated it, torpedoed the stock, broke the all-time low equivalent. This is the CRS adjusted all-time low. You see my note over here, 1690. The reason the all-time low is at 1690, which basically is $1.60, is that we were punished when APE was released in August of 2022 with when the two tickers broke apart. We were punished obviously in the value that was stripped out of the common stock and then the immediate decline of APE. But then when they were recombined on the CRS, the conversion part of the CRS, we actually got hit a second time. My calculation was roughly about 13%. to the downside. And so if you go and you look at the all-time high in the stock and the all-time low in the stock as it's been adjusted on the charts now retroactively, you'll notice that it never shows the all-time high that we traded to, which was, should be split adjusted $720. And it shows an all-time low below what was going into the May-June 2021 melt-up, a higher all-time low. That all-time low was posted, I believe it was January 5th, 2021. What happened then was the stock started to stabilize. You can see sort of a little left shoulder, head, right shoulder of a potential inverse head and shoulders pattern. The stock starts to try to recover after the absolute decimation. And the stock can't even move back up to the old all-time low prior to Adam Aron piling on the stock and announcing a 40 million share raise. The stock then is pummeled deep into all-time low territory, the equivalent of 80 cents, and he announces that they were able to, the desks that they traded through were able to sell 40 million shares, which again is the equivalent of 400 million shares pre 1-for-10 draconian reverse split, at an average of $8.14, which again pre-CRS is 80 cents. So once again, a pattern here, decimating ape shares into an all-time low when he sold to Antera, and then decimating the common into an all-time low when he sold to whoever he sold to here. I would imagine that the stock found its way into the hands of a large short seller, a large naked short, and that this is part of this entire controlled demolition I've talked about for 2 straight years, with my main thesis being that they would drive the stock down to a point at which the systemically risky portion of the naked short could be covered. Again, all of it, in my mind, all of it having been worked out ahead of time between all the parties involved. That's my guess. And then you guys remember, as part of my thesis was that we would have a 360 win. So in other words, they would drive the stock down to a price at which whoever it was that held the systemically risky portion of the short bet, in other words, if they were to be stuck owning that and wearing it, and the stock were to start to melt up, it could bring down the entire financial system. You guys know I think that AMC was a more systemically risky stock than GME, that GME was probably the shiny object stock, not the other way around. GME is very, very bullish now. There's hints of some kind of partnership that's coming, and I think that's probably part of what we're about to see here moving forward with incredible upside price action, especially in GME, but on a percentage basis, as great or greater in AMC as they try to scrap back toward the 360 win level of the August 2022 Adam Aron Pounce event. What happened then was the stock started to track up into my October zone of strength. We were looking for a $13 hidden retest here in October, and you guys know at the time that the way this thing was looking like it was laying out here in all the zones of strength and the positive bullish data I was generating was that the stock could rally to $13, $13.25, let's call it, during the month of October, at which point we could continue to repair velocity, and then the stock would be set up to trade into the 20, 30, 40, as high as $40 into the month of November. What ends up happening is the stock tracks up really nicely up to about the I believe it was low 11s, hanging up here on the computer. Let's see, the low 11s, yeah, I call it 11.15-ish, 11.17. The stock is beaten back down because these guys needed the stock lower longer to do even more covering, it looks like to me. Then the stock starts to break out. So this is a beautiful potential breakout move here of a, more than a month-long basing pattern, and then all of these different hidden retest levels that you see marked here in magenta overhead. So a very powerful setup and a very powerful potential technical pattern as far as price declining very quickly, which sets a stock up to advance very quickly at times. What ends up happening is Adam Aron comes out into a rising stock price and announces another 350 million dilution. Now, up to 40 million shares. What's really catches my eye in the way he worded this in the 8K that they filed is that you would normally think that he would go ahead and give permission to sell another 40 million shares, which is the way this 8K was worded over here. The fact that they mentioned a dollar amount in this dilution and so obviously stopped the stock from taking off to the upside here and hitting our $13 hidden retest level, and then continuing to have some mini melt-ups through the anemoy air pocket up into the 20s and continue to repair velocity, not only a daily but a weekly and a monthly basis. I believe the reason they beat this back down and worded it as a $350 million raise is that maybe he's getting ready to announce that he's sold stock to a debt holder on a conversion. So if you guys think back to 2021, you remember that Silver Lake converted either $500 or $600 million worth of debt into equity. And then the big run to the upside was allowed to take place. The powers that be took the boot off the neck of the stock. And that's sort of what I was seeing happening when I first got involved in the stock in May. And, the stock ended up moving into that 700-800% melt up in a very short period of time, May, June. I have a hunch that they're about to announce that someone else that was holding debt has converted it to stock, and that's why they use the $350 million number as opposed to just simply saying, as they did back here in September, that we're going to sell another 40 million shares of stock. Now, they mentioned 40 million here, but only in the context of that they were going to raise $350 million through selling no more than 40 million shares. Now, if they would have not needed this stock to be beaten down here and eventually hit that strange 666 closing price on September the 21st, then what we could have done, what would have been really bullish and, something that you would expect from a CEO that wasn't working against retail, is that maybe they would sell, $100 million worth of the stock and then announce that they weren't going to sell any more stock until 2024. That would have been really bullish. In other words, they didn't need to raise the whole $350 million, so they could have sold, $100 million worth of the stock and then stopped at that point. They still would be well under the 40 million share ceiling, and it would have immediately taken this sort of this built-in pressure on top of the stock of this sort of overhead weight of dilution, and of a mysterious dilution. How much is he doing? Is he doing it? How close are we to having the 350 million done? Is he going to stop early? All of those different things are, not reasons to make people really bullish. Whereas if the company would announce not only a raise and a portion of it being done, but holding off on the rest of it until 2024, that would really make the stock take off. So we'll see if at this point the company sold $350 million worth of stock to someone converting debt. That would be, that would be good news, and it would only happen if the powers that be have decided this is the way this is going to play out. If that's true, then this is part of the 360 win scenario that is, my main thesis here. We've checked a lot of boxes at this point. The stock has remained down here into this, mid sixes to call it, high tens for such a long period of time here that the company was not only able to allow a short to get out from under the equivalent of 400 million shares. And remember, that's against an initial 516 million share float back in 2021 of the common. So, this goes a long way in covering systemically risky portion of the bet unless the naked short was, 2 billion, 3 billion shares, in which case, they basically have covered, near a billion or a billion, I don't know. You have to also assume that a lot of work has been done here in the open market here, in my opinion, on top of this being handed to a short. And then also remember the ape shares that were converted, that were sold from Antera into someone else's hands. So those also could have been counted against a larger number of short covering. And again, when you do the math, based on the 1-for-10 reverse split, you're talking about some really big numbers. We don't view this as 40 million. We view it as 400 million. So you see this note here. Adam Aron has posted bearish comments and posted AK dilution docs that have stopped the rally leg for over a year. If his bosses are ready to allow the stock to rally, he will stop making comments that halt the rallies, right? He'll stop what he's been constantly doing every time the stock starts to lift and look technically more healthy. And then if they want the stock to actually go higher, then he'll actually make positive comments. And it would be even more positive and more like a normal CEO that is in favor of the existing shareholders if those announcements were made pre-market or after hours. That's when you can really make a stock run, and that's when they made the stock run 310% back in January of 2021, I guess it was. That was an announcement that was made after hours. So again, this is kind of a guess, this $350 million debt to stock conversion, but that would be, the type of news that I'd expect to see after hours one day, pre-market one day, if, again, the powers that be are telling Adam Aron it's time for this stock to move back up. And if we're going to score this, 360-degree win that I keep talking about. The 360 win just means it's a circular win. Everyone wins, right? So the company's already won. Adam Aron and his sons have become wildly rich. His son with his new husband. He didn't need to get any big wedding gifts from Adam Aron because his dad made him, wildly rich. And you look at his background, and he lives in that world of finance anyway, and so does his husband, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, at this point, if they want to see the final portion of the 360 win to close the circular win, they need to let retail get whole again. The only way to let retail get whole again is to take the stock, in my opinion, right back up to that August 2022 pounce level. And so as you see what's on the board here, that would be $120 to $220. I'm putting $120 to $191 here to move back to that August 2022 pounce level. The problem with that number into Q1, which was my original target as we were trading into the zone of strength here in October, is that Adam Aron came in and did this again and beat the shit out of the stock again and diluted the stock again. And so it not only set us back time-wise, right? It cost us a whole month of upside progress, but it beat the stock down into this all-time low. The stock closed at this 666, another bizarre number. Adam Aron posted the tweet about the 666 number a year ago or whenever that was. And the Damien movie and all that weird stuff. It's a freak show. Anyway, the point is that they've not only beaten the stock down price-wise, but they've robbed us of time, right? Cost us a whole extra month of progress if this thing does start up, as I think it will. And then probably most importantly, they destroyed the velocity again. So this whole move here off of this September low and into this breakout early November had gone a long way in repairing the velocity that we knew was damaged based on the math that we can see in front of us on the Nimoy terminal. So again, very odd for him to come in and dilute a second time in this such a short period of time. It's just I defy someone to show me another example of a CEO diluting a stock as it's rising, and you're not up against the $1 level where you're about to be delisted from one of the major exchanges. I defy you to go find another example of a CEO diluting a stock into the hole and the second dilution into a rising stock price. It is what it is. And I refuse to try to, sugarcoat it and act like it's anything other than what I believe it is. And, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I know what's in front of me here. So assuming that this thing starts to track and tomorrow, it looks to me like they'll try to hit the stock one more time on Monday the 4th, but then starting on the 5th, this stock as well as GME and a couple others look like they're ready to just start to go really, really aggressively to the upside. So again, tomorrow would be December the 4th, a screaming kind of trampoline buy in my work if they drop the stock back down below that 666 level yet again. And then here's what we're looking for in our first zone of strength here in this week. Is we've got a hidden retest at 860, one at 990, and one at 1075. One or all of those can be hit midweek or later in the week. We then have this $13 hidden retest level. It's $13.25. It's the exact level there, but there is a $13 retest in the 5-minute model time frame. The $13.25 is coming from an hourly model. That is, again, the price target that we were hoping for in October. And then, Adam Aaron did this and the rest is history. So this is the progress we're expecting to see. You know how these work. Once the hidden retest levels are hit, we typically go through the full vibration sequence. So although that doesn't have to take a lot of time, you are talking, hours or a day probably between all of these different levels before you're ready to sort of release and continue higher. Then you see the first really nice air pocket here once you get up through that $13 level and you move up toward the 22. This also starts to coincide with an anemoy weekly trigger. The weekly velocity in the anemoy terminal, even with Adam Aaron's beat down here, has been able to continue to repair, and it at this point is friendly to a move up toward $22 or higher. Once we move into sort of this January 22nd time frame and add days to both sides of that, then I'll have a better idea about what the most powerful of the zones of strength looks like here into February. Now, if we can start to run hot again and we can move all the way up to 32 or higher during January, then we'll start to talk about the idea of potentially getting above 45 and starting to look again at the original numbers that we were talking about before Adam pounced on us the fourth time. And I say the fourth time because the first pounce was August of 2022. His second pounce was his 3-page Twitter letter. Third pounce was the 40 million dilution, and the fourth pounce was this $350 million raise. So I think at this point they probably have done everything they needed to do, and now the deal that was preordained and preconceived, part of this WWE storyline that we've been moving through for multiple years now, is to allow retail the 360 win. Whether or not the regulators will step in with some news and act like they're tough guys and that they're going to lean in and be really tough on predatory naked short selling, failures to deliver, and all these different things, we'll see. I mean, I would think at some point they have to at least save face. I'm talking about the regulators, that they will have to at least save face in some way, shape, or form, and that would fit really nicely with the 360 win. We also have, again, this hint at a partnership between GME and AMC. I've always thought that live gaming in the movie theaters is a natural, especially for the generations that we have, coming into the theaters. and I don't know what that technology would look like. I haven't spent that much time on it. I don't know if it could be a technology that's attached to a phone, and each person sits in the audience with their phones and plays against each other on the screen and against other, people globally. I don't know if it could be tied into, some kind of a existing site where actually money can be made by the participants. Prizes won, those types of things. I don't know, but to me, it seems like at some point there probably will be some kind of live gaming inside movie theaters, and so we'll see. I also thought it was interesting when that false announcement was made of the CEO change, and they talked about Sussman, the board member, becoming the CEO of AMC. You have to remember that Adam Aron still has a lot of egg on his face, and the board of directors, have a lot of pressure on them probably to address some other news that might be coming out. If where there's smoke, there's fire. He's probably done a lot of other inappropriate texting or even potentially illegal interactions at some point in the past. And if that's true, they'll need to push him aside. If they want to do him a favor, they won't push him aside until Q1. And I believe, based on some documentation I've read, that he will be able to either vest this new stock that they're probably being awarded and the bonuses and everything else if he's still in the CEO position into January or through Q1. I'm not sure which, but to me, that's a logical time for him to step down. I think that would be received as good news, 100%, if he were to step away. It's not the kind of company that's, it's not an Elon Musk level CEO position. It's basically financial engineering, EBITDA type accounting that Charlie Munger, scoffs at, and a lot of other people do as well. And so it's not a CEO position that's hard to fill if they blow Adam Aron out the door for the sexting and all the other stuff that's going on. And he wins too, because I can promise you, based on history, they would figure out a way for him to fully vest his stock before he leaves, and they continue to drive the stock higher. So, the CFR boys just don't lose. Anyway, long video, but that's pretty much everything that's on my mind and what everything looks like. Again, if we start to peg to pick off these hidden retest levels, then I'll keep everyone posted in real time as far as a combination of any new bullish data that's generated or any new bearish data that's generated in conjunction with the anemoid terminals velocity characteristics and whether or not those are being repaired at each fractal time frame sufficiently to allow the stock to start to track higher retest levels more quickly than what you see here in front of you. But let's stick with these for the time being. But everything looks very bullish, especially, GME has about a 7 straight month run of very consistent, powerful zones of strength. And we already had these zones of strength on the board with AMC going all the way back to when the stock moved down into that September low. So AMC also has become even more bullish. That's it from my side. Good luck, everybody.